Buffalo Bills fans, what's going on? This is your Friday 10/17 edition of First and Five. I'm your host, Dave Myers, owner and founder of Built in Buffalo. Alongside with me on Fridays, as always, is Papa Ron. Papa Ron, how we feeling on this bye week? Bills, no game Sunday. Yes, I'm wearing all black. How we feeling?
We're okay. We're all right. Better now after a couple of days to kind of soak it all in, I guess, and accept what's happened and understand that this team will be okay.
Yeah, I feel like as the days have progressed from Monday night, Tuesday was bad. Obviously, I
Yeah.
stayed off of social media. The best part, I posted things on social media, but I didn't scroll. I didn't doom scroll on social media. And then Wednesday, Thursday, I was on triple coverage last night with Lance, and then today, I feel like as the week has been progressing, I feel like I'm trying to look for the positives. I'm trying to find good wrinkles in anything that's going on with this team instead of just, doom and gloom. And if you stay on social media too long, you just get depressed and things like that. So today we're going to break down some potential targets that the Bills could trade for either next week or before the trade deadline. We have a lot of usual suspects that you've seen. I'm sure if you're on social media, you've seen these players' names, been thrown out there. If you watch the national media coverage, there's always some stuff that comes out about this guy might be available or that guy might be available. So we're going to kind of break things down. But first, I want to ask you, Ron, what is the biggest need for this team right now as far as position group? What's your take on what is the most glaring need right now in this team?
I've gone back and forth quite a bit on this idea myself. Initially, my first thought was corner because I feel like Trey White is just I'm tired of watching him trailing in coverage. Uh, I Trey White's one of my favorite players, one of my all-time favorite Bills players, but he's just not the guy he once was. But Dorian Strong played well when he had his opportunities. Max Hurston will come back, so there's potential answers for that problem, right? But then I look at the wide receivers. We don't have anybody on suspension coming back. There's nobody that's injured that's coming back. But we got what we've got. I understand Josh Palmer is now hurt, but I feel like that is the area that needs some help. That Brandon Beane needs to go out there and say, okay, I need to figure this out and bring in some help. I do think that there's some things that Joe Brady can do. If they don't if they don't add any new players, I think there's some things he can do to kind of maybe help them. But if there's one position I would like to add to, that's the one.
To me, and this I don't want this conversation to go forever, but about this position, but to me, the safety position is the most glaring need on this team. And I see everybody talking about how the Bills need to address safety, and address safety because Taylor Rapp is just not cutting it. If you watch any film from the last 3 weeks, not even the Falcons game, but the last 3 weeks, he's just I don't know if it's coaching and he's being schemed in bad positions to make tackles, but Cole Bishop just seemingly he looks good, and then all of a sudden you're like, dude, just push Bijan Robinson out of bounds. Like, he flicked you away like you were a fly. Like that to me, I don't know if that's coaching or what that is, but I say that about the safety position to say that I don't think Beane's going to make a move at the safety position because I feel like Sean McDermott wants guys that he trusts and has been around his system and he's groomed. And I just feel like if you go and you trade for X safety off of whatever team that looks like, if it's a starting caliber safety and Brandon Beane goes and trades for him, is he going to see the field right away, or is he going to have to earn the trust of Sean McDermott? So to me, I agree with your sentiments about the cornerback position and the wide receiver position. Now, to me, I don't know how much can we wait for Maxwell Hairston to be right. Now, say they open up the 21-day window, he ends up coming back by week 10. That's the game after the Chiefs. And you do, a snap count on him, or you do back and forth with him and Trey, however you want to do it. Because the Dorian Strong injury is concerning to me because it's a neck injury and that those can
Yeah.
be really serious. So I don't think we can count too much on him. But I think you should get if you're in this we're going to win now. We got to get the 1 seed. We're going to make a Super Bowl run. I feel like it would be okay to go out and get a starting caliber corner. And then you let Hairston come along at his pace, and you kind of ease him into stuff, and he's there. If he's healthy, he's there. If something happens, down the stretch, if there's an injury again, like to Benford or something like that. But I don't know. I have a list of some corners we could talk about, but definitely the wide receiver position is intriguing to me because, like you said, Joshua Palmer looked like he was ready to have a nice breakout game against the Falcons, and then that injury that he had, it was unfortunate. He's week to week, so hopefully he's ready to go for the Panthers, if not for the Chiefs. But when we talk about receivers and this offense and how it chugs along, we don't talk about Dalton Kincaid. Now, I know he's not a wide receiver, but maybe he's the Bills' number one target, and they want him to be the number one target, seeing as how he's kind of played so far this season. So before we get into any of the names that you and me kind of discussed before we came on, is there a thought process that maybe Brandon Beane doesn't want to address the wide receiver position because he's just waiting to get everybody healthy, and Dalton Kincaid's coming and all this stuff, and he's seen how he's progressed so far? What's your thoughts on that take?
Going back, I went through the first 6 games. On the Bills' scoring drives, over 74% of James Cook's touches came on scoring drives. I They need to keep him involved, whether that's in the running game or in the passing game. And you mentioned, I saw a couple of your tweets about that, and what 1 carry I think it was in the fourth quarter
Yep.
that he got. If they just go to that and build this offense around him and Kincaid, then I think everything else honestly would work itself out. Shakir, I would like to see him get a little bit more targets. This whole everybody eats mantra to me is kind of wearing thin, honestly.
Yeah.
I think I've seen enough of it. It's time to focus on your key players, your star players. And I do think Shakir could be a star in this league if they would let him. Same thing with Kincaid and James Cook. They've got the weapons there. Just as you've mentioned before, does Joe Brady know how to utilize them? Will he utilize them? So I think that's why I said there are some things that Joe Brady can do to alleviate some of the issues that we see at the wide receiver position. And I want to jump back really quick to your comments on the safety position. Um, I like Cole Bishop there. I think his biggest issue that I see from week to week is he's just overly aggressive. I
Yeah.
see him just launching himself into other guys at
Yeah.
100 miles an hour. It's like, slow down. You
Right.
don't have to knock the crap out of every single guy ball carrier. So I like, and so that is a coaching thing. They can eventually, I think, coach that out of him. Let's not forget, he's only maybe what, half of season worth of starts in his career. He's still
Right.
very young, very raw. So rap is a problem. I will give you that. Maybe Hancock can come in and solve that. Maybe not. Jordan Poyer, he did play well the other night. I think he was in the top 5 as far as the PFF grades go for
Right.
defensive guys. So I think there's potentially some answers there as well. But
I think if you get a guy next to Cole Bishop that is above average, I think it helps a lot. You know what I mean? I think in that
yeah,
maybe that's, I'm not saying Jordan Poyer is going to play at a high level, but I think if Jordan Poyer with the IQ, because once the
right.
players get older, I feel like their IQ takes over and makes up for the physical aspect that they no longer have. So if Jordan Poyer's, constantly in his ear saying, "Hey, you know what? Be in position. This is where you need to be. This is what you need to," and just kind of lead by example. You may not have the physical attributes that you had, 3-4 years ago, but as long as you're showing him in the film room and IQ wise where to be, because I talked about it last night. I feel like the Bills brought in all these coaches on defense, right? They have different coaches here and there, and a defensive line coach, and they brought in an extra DBs coach. And I feel like if you watch the Bills pre-snap on defense, I feel like a lot of the issues they're having is they're not in the right place. Like they don't know, and you can watch they're arguing back and forth, like no, over there or over here, or no, back up or go there. And you can see the linebackers and you can see the DBs are all doing that. And I feel like we're having issues with Taron Johnson. Everybody thinks that he's declining, but I feel like he's playing like he's trying to manage where all these guys need to go, and then other guys are telling other, and it's just I feel like that's coaching, and maybe that part of the defense can be worked out, especially on the back end. I feel like a lot of times the guys just are in bad position. And I don't know if that's the scheme they're trying to play or what, because Sean McDermott's bend but don't break defense that we all love so very much. I just feel like, I feel like it's gotten to a point where every single play, if you watch the all 22, guys just look out of position. They don't look like they were in the right alignment or scheme or what it is. So, but that's
Well,
a different conversation. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so part of that, how much do you think could be associated with a lot of different players coming and going because of the injuries? You also got more,
Sure.
probably more rookies than we've ever seen on McDermott's defense since day one when he first
Yeah.
took over. So, I mean, I think maybe some of that's part of it, but I'm not sold on Babbage, to be honest. I think personally, I think McDermott needs to take over the coaching or the play calling there. But
Yeah, I said last night, hot take, that at some point, I don't know, and now McDermott's come out publicly and said,
yeah,
I'm not taking over play calling. It's Bobby Babbitt's job. I feel like if this kind of miscommunication, because they watch the film just like us, they even more so, and you got to see that if guys are confused as to where they're supposed to be, any opposing offense is just chomping at the bit to just do whatever they want, whether it's to run the ball, whether it's just quick release passing, whatever it is, because these guys can't get set. And when they're not set in the right spot, that's bad. And that's coaching. I'm
yeah,
sorry, like we don't want to ever criticize the coaches. We always want to say that the players need to execute. And yes, that they do need to execute, but if they're how much can they execute if they're consistently in bad positions? Because I feel like whenever you watch the Bills, and I've been talking about this for 9 years now under Sean McDermott, like they have tackling issues. They can't do the simple fundamental tackling. And a lot of that could be accounted to that they're just out of position. So they're unable to make tackles because they're taking bad angles because they're not in the right spot to begin with. So hopefully, and like I said, at some point, McDermott, I feel like is going to be calling plays. If it gets to a point where the defense is not improving, even with the additions of Hoyt and Ogunjobi, and we get some guys back healthy, and maybe Hairston gets to play, and maybe they make a move and they add somebody, and it's still not progressing to where we see a light at the end of the tunnel, then I think that's absolutely, like, do what got you hired. Like, you are a defensive minded head coach and you were a really good coordinator, and that's how you ultimately got this head coaching position. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So let's start with wide receiver. Obviously, there's a lot of names floating around out there. The national media is putting things out there that this guy's available and teams are taking calls on this player. So I'll start with one that I didn't mention to you before we went live. What's your thoughts on Garrett Wilson from the Jets?
he's hurt. uh,
Yeah, but I'm saying
yeah,
like
I think that's oh man. If it wasn't the Jets, I think there would be maybe a potential for that to happen. I just don't see the Jets, and we'll talk about another guy in the division here soon. But I don't see a
yeah,
division rival making any kind of a deals with the Bills. I think he'd be a great addition,
yeah,
as most of these guys would that we're going to talk about. But I think that's probably at the bottom of the list just because of the team he's coming from. But then again, I mean, we've seen
it's
teams.
the Jets.
I kind of go, but yeah, it's the Jets. Very good point. I go back to was it 2001? I think it was when the Patriots traded Bledsoe to the Bills, and everybody's like,
Yeah,
"What are you doing?
right,
Trading within the division? It's crazy." We know how that ended. Bledsoe was there for 3 seasons. Started out well, whatever. But yeah, I don't see the Jets doing that. He's one of those guys that I think they could build an offense around if they wanted to do a fire sale. I think he's probably one guy that they're like, okay, we need him and Brees Hall. We got to
right.
keep these guys in house. Maybe fire sell the rest of the team and try to build around those guys.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sick to my stomach that I see all these trade rumors of Brees Hall going to the Chiefs. Like, it's just stop. Please stop.
I
Um,
think Braylon Allen is probably the more likely option
right.
if they do trade one of those guys.
100%. 100%. Why you would trade Brees Hall when you are clearly in a rebuilding, tear it down, start over, let's go find a quarterback that can use these guys that we have on offense type
Yeah.
of mode. I feel like that would be a mistake. Um, you kind of, spoiled it there a little bit, but threw a teaser out there. But Jalen Waddle has been getting a lot of attention from Bills fans lately. Um, yes, he posted a cryptic post on Instagram that had him coming out of at Bills Stadium, and there was a Bills logo on the wall behind him. There was also other pictures of him in that same post in Dolphins, apparel. There was like a 7 or 8, picture post. But to me, and he's peanuts this year. His contract for the rest of the
Yeah.
year is not. It's something that could be affordable. I think it's $1 million, around a 1.1 million for the rest of the year, something like that. Something that could be affordable, and I think his cap hit next year isn't large either. So, what's your thoughts on Jalen Waddle? Obviously, the Miami Dolphins are in a situation at 1-5. I don't know where they're going to try to go, even if they win a bunch of games. I don't know how realistic that Mike McDaniel's going to be there long. Chris Greer's going to be there long as GM. I feel like they just went into this season saying, let's see what happens. Maybe we can do something to kind of sneak into a wild card spot or at least be competitive. But what's your thoughts on Jalen Waddle? Because I feel like the Dolphins might be having a fire sale here pretty soon, because I feel like the
I,
season is just about off the rails for them.
yeah, I am shocked, to be honest, that he is still in charge there, McDaniels. That team, I figured he would be gone by now, and
Yeah,
I question that really. What are they doing at this point? Maybe they've just like we are who we are. We might as well just let McDaniel's finish the season out, and then
right,
we'll reassess at that point. I I like Jalen Waddle. I think his speed would be a nice addition. He's faster, I believe, than Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is to me a little bit more of a Keon Coleman esque type, only better, obviously. No disrespect to Keon, but I think we're not quite where we want to be with him. Uh, if I were to pick between the two, for me personally, I would take Waddle because I think Buffalo's offense needs that speed.
yeah,
Even though I think Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel, they obviously have the 40 times that say they're fast, but Buffalo just doesn't use them that way. And even going to that aspect, I would like to see Joe Brady use both those guys as wide receivers and
right.
stop with this gadget stuff. But that's another conversation too.
Yeah, I think like when you compare Waddle to Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore, he has the route running upside. I think over hands down over both those guys.
Yeah,
And like you said, like if we have this speed, we kept 6 wide receivers, which I think a lot of people were surprised that we kept 6 with Tyrell Shavers, basically for what he does on special teams and blocking on offense. Like, why are we not trying at least once or twice a game to see if these guys can get downfield? You know what I mean? Like, you have Josh Allen, a guy that can launch the ball downfield. Now, I understand you don't want Josh Allen putting the ball in harm's way, but if you have Curtis Samuel, who we were sold on his speed, and you have Elijah Moore, who we were sold on his speed, there's got to be something in the playbook that you could dial up at least once or twice a game
yeah,
to see what kind of at least to see what kind of defensive look you get from calling that play, right? So to me, Jalen Waddle is interesting. Now, again, he's in the division. The Dolphins, I don't know if they would be willing to trade with the Bills. Obviously, we know the rivalry is there, so that's something to keep an eye on. Another one we had here, and I really the likelihood of this is probably like 0.005%, is AJ Brown. Obviously, you watched if anybody watched the Steelers and Bengals game last night, you saw Jamar Chase get 24 targets, and then Eagles fans are sitting here saying, "Why can't we do that with AJ Brown, who's a pretty damn good receiver?" I think that's where the story starts: is the fact that he's getting 7, 8, 9 targets a game, and a lot of times they're contested passes, or it's something where he absolutely has to just go make a play on. So I don't know if a 4-2 team is going to trade one of their best players to a 4-2 team. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Honestly, I don't know if Howie Roseman would be looking to get some draft capital. He loves his draft picks just like Brandon Beane does. So it's interesting to talk about because again, I think his contract, if you look at how it's structured this year, next year, and the year after, I think it's kind of manageable, and it would have to be something where it was a trade and restructure. It would have to be
Right.
the Bills would have to figure something out because I think they're just at about 2 million under the cap right now, and there's just no way whatever I feel like I've seen floating out there that, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I feel like he would fit in under the cap this year because I don't think his extension kicks in until either next year or the year after. I could be wrong. Someone in the chat knows, please let me know. But what's your thoughts on AJ Brown? Is it a pipe dream? Is it something that's definitely not going to happen? What's your thoughts? I don't even think he's going to be traded, to be honest with you.
And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, and because, yeah, to me, it's a pipe dream. I wrote about this over on Bills on SI actually, and called it just that. Because look, to me, Howie Roseman is one of the best GMs in the game. I honestly believe that, and I don't think he's dumb enough to trade a number one quote unquote alpha wide receiver on a Super Bowl contending team to another. We hope that is a Super Bowl contending team in the Bills.
Right.
The way things have looked in the last couple of weeks, not so much. But yeah, I don't see that happening. If they were to trade anybody on that team for any future assets, I think Deonta Smith would be more likely option.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of his either.
Yeah.
He's done better in the league than I expected. I'll be straight up about that. When he was first coming out, I was like, "There's no way this guy's going to survive in the league. He's too small." But he's made a decent career. And again,
Yeah.
he brings speed.
Yeah, and Howie Roseman too went out and traded a first-round draft pick for AJ Brown. Let's not forget. So he's got a commitment there, and we know how Howie Roseman's kind of stubborn, very similar to Brandon Beane about how he covets those draft picks. So it would have to be an astronomical offer, I think, and
Yeah.
I feel like would I love it? Yes, of course, obviously, but I just feel like that's a pipe dream, and I don't think first off, I don't think they're going to move him. And second of all,
Right.
I don't think that the Bills are gonna acquire him. So, all right, Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders. This year his salary is a little tough. He's owed 10.5 for the whole entire year, so I don't know what that looks like prorated for the rest of the year. He's had a couple 1,000-yard seasons, played with absolute bad quarterback play, in Las Vegas. So, what's your thoughts on Jakobi Meyers? Because before I let you go, to me, I feel like we're acquiring something that we might already have.
Bingo.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, is he a good receiver? Yes. Has he put up numbers? Yes. But when he's the only option besides Brock Bowers, he should be like, it's the Joshua Palmer effect, right? If you have Joshua Palmer and no one else, he's going to put up numbers because he's going to get the targets. So what's your thoughts on Jakobi Meyers?
You basically just spelled it out. I'm in the exact same boat. Yeah, he's a good receiver, but I don't think he's that much better than the options we have. Just the options we have, Joe Brady needs to learn how to utilize them, move them around. I've seen some conversations and talk lately about moving Keon Coleman around into the slot and try something different. But with Myers, will he come in here and be at okay pace? Would he be one of our top 3 or 4 guys? Yes, probably. But yeah, I don't think it really moves the needle as far as really elevating that passing game.
Yeah, I mean, he's got nice hands. I'm not going to lie. Like the thought of having him in the Bills offense is nice, but then again, what are we doing to acquire him? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? And we could say that about any of these guys. And there's a couple more we're going to talk about here as far as the wide receivers. Like, what are we doing to acquire? Because you're not going to have 7 wide receivers on the roster. You know what I mean? And I understand Curtis Samuel is in and out of the lineup. And I understand Elijah Moore has been inactive for a few games and he's in and out of the lineup. So it's going to be interesting. So I got 2 left. And I will preface this by saying I would take either of these guys hands down. So Chris Olave from the Saints. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. There is some concussion concern. He seems to, who knows, like if the next one could be the last one. Obviously it would be sort of a risk to take on a guy who seems to get injured almost every season. Doesn't miss a ton of time, but he does miss time occasionally. But he's a very productive receiver. And I feel like downfield, he's a very good downfield threat. So what's your thoughts on Chris Olave?
That's my number 1 target. I love Chris Olave. Since he came in the league, I've been a fan. I like his game. I think he does bring some speed. The downfield threat, the route running. I think he is, in my mind, he could be a number one, a true number one receiver if he's utilized in that manner. He is somebody that to me would elevate this passing game. He would give Josh Allen somebody a go-to beyond Kincaid and Shakir. And quite honestly, he could really open things up for those two guys underneath. And
Yeah.
it would be a game changer if they could grab him. Shaheed, I I almost put Shaheed honestly in the same category as oh geez, the guy we were just talking about from the Raiders.
Oh, Jacoby
uh
Myers.
Jacoby Myers, only
Yeah.
faster, right? We know
Yeah.
Shaheed, that's his main thing. That's what he's about is just the speed. So again, would we utilize them that way? We've got a couple of guys that can just flat out fly, but we don't use them that way. So I'm not confident that we would use Shaheed in that way. But Chris Olave would be a huge, huge get.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now on Shaheed, like I could just envision like off script Josh Allen and Rashid Shaheed. That would be just run down, just go, and I'm just gonna like John Brown, like they used to do, just run
Yeah,
and just go, and I'm gonna throw it to you. You just run under it and catch it.
that's a good
Um,
point.
and that would be nice. But again, I preface. I'm gonna keep saying this. I don't know if I trust Joe Brady enough. If we go make a move and we get a wide receiver that could be considered either a one or a two, wide receiver one or two, however you look at it, that Joe Brady is going to scheme this guy to be successful. And I put something out there yesterday about Stephon Diggs. Say what you want, fine. We don't like him anymore. He's on the rival Patriots, whatever. How he left the building when he was traded. But the year that Joe Brady took over play calling, Diggs targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns dropped off a cliff after week 12. Or I'm sorry, it was week 11. I think it was after that Jets game. He was not getting targeted. He was not force feeding Stephon Diggs. So to me, if we bring in a guy that's had a really good career, he's got great hands, runs the entire route tree, we can probably get him a bunch of targets. Is Joe Brady going to be able to do that? You know what I mean? Like I don't know because we're trying to get Kincaid the ball and then they're doing all these plays to try to throw 50-50 balls to Coleman. And you always want to throw these little short intermediate routes to Shakir. And then they chuck the ball downfield to Joshua Palmer, first play on offense against the Falcons. So I don't know. It's confusing to me to think that we would go get a Chris Olave and it would be successful. You know what I mean? Like if he's upset in New Orleans, is he going to get upset here because he's not getting his target share? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he'd be happy because he's on a winning organization and stuff like that. But
Right.
I don't know. You get to play with Josh Allen, so maybe that's a bonus. So what's your thoughts on that? Like like you said earlier about the everyone eats thing was cool for 20 games, but the everyone eats is not cool when nobody's eating at all. And that happened last year versus the Ravens and the Texans. It's happened this year against the Patriots and Falcons. Like it seems to be that every year that everybody eats just kind of hits a wall and then we freak out. Brandon Bean makes a move and everything's okay. So what's your thought?
Yeah, first of all, let me address in the chat. This individual keeps bringing this up as far as the cap space. We're aware that there's not a lot of cap space, but we're also aware that Brandon Bean is pretty good at maneuvering the cap and
Right.
making it work. So I'm not really concerned about that. He would find a way, right? We know he would find a way.
Plus you can move a player
Right. Yeah.
if you
So
need to.
there's options there.
Right.
Uh, as far as how they, Joe Brady, I have lost. Well, I'll just say I've lost all faith in Joe Brady. I don't know what I'm watching anymore. Uh, the end around, I believe, whatever you want to call it, to
2
Elijah
weeks in a
Moore
row.
on that. Yeah, and I get it. I know what Josh Allen said. It's a bad play when it doesn't work. It's a bad call when it doesn't work. But Yes, that is true to a point, but you also want to call plays that have a higher rate of success, right? And that particular play, that end around stuff, they've tried it a few times this year and it's not working at all. So I think, well, I take that back. I believe Moore did score a touchdown against the
Yeah,
Jets
right.
late in the game doing
Against the
that. But
Jets.
right. But I, there's been some things with Brady here lately that's kind of really turned me off. I think a couple weeks ago, he was asked about the receivers getting separation, and his comment was basically, "Well, there's not really anybody in the league that gets the kind of separation that you want. You know,
Yeah.
there's just those guys don't exist."
Nobody just
And then
runs right past the defender. That's what he said.
right,
Yeah.
and then this week, it came up. I don't remember the exact question, but his response was, "Well, we got to execute. Players got to execute." It's like he keeps deflecting everything away from himself.
Right.
At some point, you need to own this. You are the offensive coordinator. You need to figure out why it's not working and make the necessary changes. And if that's moving pieces around, which I would love to see them do, move Coleman in the slot, move Shakir to the outside, have some guys in motion, line them all three up on the same side. Like the creative aspect that people talk about is not these goofy little end arounds that aren't working. It's moving the personnel you have around. It's creating mismatches way by the way that they're lined up and the routes that they run. That's being creative, not running gadget plays. That's not working.
Right.
Stop. Um, I'm sorry. I maybe went off track a
No,
little
you're
bit because
no, it's good. It's good
yeah, Brady
conversation.
really yeah.
Well, to me, so and I'm not an offensive coordinator and I'm not a head coach and I've never ran a professional football offense, but if you have a deficiency, especially like on Monday night where Palmer went out and Kincaid was out. Okay, so what do I do? Well, why don't you line up three guys on the one side and you do some rub routes? That way a guy can get open fast because if the Falcons are blitzing every play. So if you need to get the
Mahomes
ball
is
out,
making a career off of that.
yeah, and if you're worried about Josh getting, pressured every single pass, run some rub routes. You still have Dawson Knox who can chip and do all that stuff. You have Jackson Hawes who can chip and do all that stuff. You have James Cook. You have Ty Johnson. Line them out as wide receivers. They can catch. If you watch James Cook's college film, he was lined up everywhere,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
he caught passes from everywhere. And I'm not saying we need to run a college style of offense, but Joe Brady came from LSU and he was very successful with two amazing wide receivers. So I mean, to me, it seems like the last couple weeks, and it's even could go back before that. Like the easy stuff has gone away. We're making everything way too difficult. Like it's 3rd and 1. You have Josh Allen and James Cook. This is a gimme. Run a tush push twice, hand it to James Cook twice, or do one of each right up the middle. And if you can't
yeah.
get 2 yards, then it's not your day. The Falcons are better than you that day. But like, I can't sit here and say like because of the injuries, the Bills couldn't score points. Like it's been proven that Josh Allen has worked with less and scored more points. It was proven last year. I feel like the team offensively last year had less skill position players than they do this year. I mean, we were throwing to
Yeah.
Mac Hollins. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm hoping, and I don't, like you said, you lost faith. I'm going to try to stay positive and think that this bye came at a good time where the two games were slumping on offense. I mean, the Bills had the ball 3 or 4 times with a tie score or down by 1 score against the Falcons and had a chance to tie that game, and they squandered it all away. They just
Yeah.
did nothing with the ball. So I'm hoping that this is kind of a reflection period for the Bills offense, Joe Brady, Josh Allen, the rest of the skill position players, the offensive line, and try to get back to basics and see what happens there. So
I will just add that yes, that's my hope. Based off of Brady's comments here the last couple of weeks, he seems very stubborn. And it's almost like maybe he doesn't see the issues and he's just deflecting everything. Hopefully, maybe Sean McDermott understands and sees what's happening, and he can, behind closed doors in the back alley, knock some sense into Brady. But
well,
we'll see, we'll see. This team is going to be fine. I'm not worried about him as far
yeah,
as
I mean,
playoffs and whatnot. But some things have got to change if we want to make a run at the Super
what's
Bowl.
What's concerning to me is that after the Bills ran that reverse to Dawson Knox, that was a fumble on the opening drive of the opening offensive drive against the Patriots. McDermott was asked about it, and he said, we can't be doing that. And then what did Joe Brady do? He called it the very next game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else McDermott needs to tell Brady, but what I would tell him is, we just paid our running back $48 million. He is second in the NFL in rushing yards, and he's averaging more yards than just about every running back in the NFL per carry. And when he gets the ball, we move the ball and we score. If you look at every drive the Bills have scored this season, it's James Cook is a heavy dose of that. So I would be like, look, if you can't get him involved in the run game and they're shutting it down, whatever that looks like, you need to get him involved in the pass game, because he is our second best offensive player. He might be the second best player on the team, honestly.
100%.
So, all right, let's move to corner, because I think we spent enough time on the offense, and we could probably talk for another hour about it. So there's some corners out there that I feel like the Bills could target if they do want to go that route. Obviously, Rasul Douglas is out there. I feel like in retrospect now, maybe it should have been Rasul Douglas that they brought back instead of Tre'Davious White, but that's just me. I mean, Tre'Davious White's a fan favorite. But Rasul Douglas last year was not the Rasul Douglas of 23. When they brought him in, when Trey got injured, he was making plays. He was recovering fumbles. He was batting passes, getting interceptions, pick sixes, things like that. Last year, I feel like kind of knocked down a peg or two. So, but he's been playing okay with the Dolphins, and he missed all of training camp and I think most of the preseason. They signed him very late into the offseason, and he's been playing okay with the Dolphins. And I think that he might be a step up from Tre'Davious White. Now, I don't know if they want to go back to that well. But what's your thoughts on Rasul Douglas? Again, it's interdivision, so who knows?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think if I played corner, it would be a step up from Tre'Davious. I'm just kidding. No, that's not true at all.
I almost spit my coffee all over the camera.
I don't have a problem with the Bills bringing Tre'Davious White. I actually liked that signing just because of the possibility. You know, what if maybe he is past the injuries and maybe he can recapture some of what he once was. But I also feel like that was one position that they really needed to stockpile up. Now I know they drafted the position as well, brought in 2 guys to compete, and so that was good. Injuries kind of messed all that up. So maybe if not their injuries, we wouldn't be having this conversation probably, right?
Right.
But it happened. So, and because Rasul Douglas was out there so late, and to me, it looked pretty obvious he wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Like everything but just come around and say, I want to go back to Buffalo.
Right.
So if I feel like the Bills should have brought him in, maybe added him, maybe even another free agent. Heck, we mentioned it pre-show, Stephon Gilmore.
Right.
They need to do something, and even now, like I said at the beginning of the show, we do have Harrison coming back eventually.
Right.
Will there be a ramp up period for him to get on the field and get acclimated? Probably, yes. Dorian Strong played the position, played it well when he had opportunities. We don't really know a whole lot about his injury, though. I think at this point, if there is a fair price option out there, then maybe you go ahead and give it a shot. But I don't think they will. I think they're confident in Hairston. I really do think that's where they're banking on at this point. So we'll see. I wouldn't mind Douglas to come back at this point, but it would be kind of almost like, what's the saying, a pie in your face if they didn't sign him to a free agent deal and then they have to go out and give up some assets to bring him back. That's kind of like almost slapping yourself in the face, but do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's other guys out there: L'Jarius Sneed, Eric Stokes, Tariq Woolen, Alontae Taylor from the Saints. I mean, some of these guys, you look at the resume and they're younger, and they're still on the up trajectory of their career. But like you said, McDermott and his defense it's stubborn. He's just stubborn. Like he wants what he wants. And now I understand Brandon Beane's the GM. He's going to give him the players. McDermott needs to make it work. But I think that they're just so high on Hairston that
Yeah.
even though he's injured, I feel like they think that they're going to figure it out. Now, maybe they do, but like I said to start the show, why not go get a proven guy, and then Tre'Davious is your backup, and then Maxwell Hairston can rehab and redshirt this entire season. Now, we spent a first round draft pick on him, so I get that. We want to see what we got there. We want to see that. But people forget he's been injured twice now. He was injured back in the spring, and he was Hairston. He was injured back
Yeah.
in the spring, and then he was injured in training camp. So he's been injured twice already in his first NFL offseason. So do we want to rush him back? We don't. I still think a lot of us don't know the severity of his injury. Yes, they didn't put him on IR, which is a sign that it wasn't as severe as a lot of people thought that it was looking at the injury. But I don't know. Like, you want him out there because he's your first round pick, and you spent a first round pick on him, and it's a huge asset. But again, he's coming off of an injury, something he's never had to deal with. So do we want to bring him along at his own pace and the team's pace and not have to worry that, okay, Max is coming. We just have to hold tight until Max comes, because then once he gets in there, you have all your rookie lumps that he's going to take. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting there, but
I just want to add, I kind of backtrack a little bit on what I said as far as the ramp up period.
yeah,
He has been out for a while now, so
yeah,
if he's 100%, like he's good to go, and from some of the videos that I've seen, he looks like he's moving around pretty well.
yeah,
He still has a pretty bulky brace the last time I saw. But let's go back to Trey White's rookie season. He hit the ground running. Christian Benford, same thing. He hit the
right,
ground and was like, oh, this guy can play.
right.
Maybe that's Hairston. Maybe he comes in and he does the same. I I know this team completely whiffed on Kyrie Elam. We all know that story. But more often than not, they've hit and done a pretty good job at that position. So
Yeah.
maybe he is the guy and is ready to go.
My thought process, though, is at some point, yes, he has to play, but I guess it all depends on what the season looks like at that point, right? Once we hit the trade deadline, if the season, so say we're 4-4, I don't think we're going to be 4-4, but say we're 4-4 after the Chiefs game. Is this a situation where we need to right the ship and we need to get some players in here, or is this, let's get a rookie out there and let him take his lumps while we're trying to compete for a Super Bowl this season? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like when they drafted him, that was going to be the offseason. Like, get him in NFL speed, ready to go in our system, and then week
Mhm.
one, and then let him take his lumps so that by week 12, 13, 14, he's locked and loaded. He's ready to go. So I don't know. I feel like
Uh,
it's six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Like,
right.
I want to see him play. I want to see what he's got. Like, the speed it can't be, like, you can't deny the speed and the
Yeah.
ability he's going to be able to have to track balls and things like that is going to be insane. So he's like Tre'Davious White, but faster when Tre'Davious was a
Yeah.
rookie. So it's going to be crazy to see. So, all right. So if I had to ask you, what position do you think the Bills and Brandon Bean will target? Is it going to be wide receiver or corner? Just pick one. What do you think Brandon Bean, sitting in his office right now, making phone calls or looking at his notes or doing his research, what do you think position is his number one target?
First of all, when we respond to something you said a while ago, if we're 4-4, if this team loses 4 consecutive games, somebody's getting fired. It's not going to be McDermott, but so
No, it would be Joe Brady. Joe Brady
yeah,
would be the scapegoat.
and
He would
maybe
not.
Babbage too.
I don't think he'll fire Babbage. Babbage has been here for 9 years. I think it's going to be. I
Dorsey's
think
been
it,
there a while too, and they let him
but
go.
I think it would be Joe Brady. I honestly do. So
If I had to pick, yeah. Um,
honestly, let's talk about Joe Brady for 1 second before you go.
okay,
I feel like Joe Brady's not going to be here next year, regardless. I
correct.
feel like
Agreed.
even if the Bills offense doesn't kick back into high gear like it did last year, and say the offense is, just kind of chugging along, whatever, he's going to be gone. I feel like the Bills are going to make a change because they have Josh Allen and it's not going to be acceptable, and he'll be the scapegoat. If the Bills are successful on office, I think he's taking the Penn State job. Honestly, I don't. I think that's his dream job. I think he wants to go to Penn State. I think he'd rather do that than get an NFL head coaching job with a team that's really bad in a rebuilding season or rebuilding
Tennessee.
mode. I'm just saying, would you want to go to Tennessee? Like their quarterback is not the guy. Anyways,
No.
like I just feel like if something bad happens the rest of the season, like when the Bills fired Ken Dorsey because they were 6-6, the offense wasn't the problem that year. It was the defense, and they fired Ken Dorsey, and he was the scapegoat. And then, we know how everything else panned out. But I feel like if the wheels fall off, I feel like it's Joe Brady that's going to go. I really do, because
I would agree.
we listened to Brandon Beane all offseason talk about how good this offense is. For it to not be good anymore when you have a $600, $350 million quarterback that we think is MVP level, is top 2, top 3. And I want to touch on one other thing too, and I know I kind of cut off when you were going to go, but I was thinking about this earlier today when we look back at Brandon Beane's conversation on WGR back in the spring after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Beane was not talking about that they didn't need wide receivers, period. He was talking about how they approached the draft. They approached the draft to get better defensively. A lot of people think that he was just saying, we didn't need to target wide receivers in this draft. That's not what his approach was. I can almost guarantee that on their draft boards, wherever they were picking, if there was a wide receiver that they thought would fit their system and what they wanted to do, they would have taken one. But there was nothing available at 30 and in the second round, third round, so be it. So I think people get so enamored with that conversation about him saying, we're good enough at receiver. We scored 30 points a game. What he meant was his approach to the draft. So I can ultimately see his number one priority is a wide receiver. And I probably stole your thunder, but what were you going to say?
He's either going to go corner or wide receiver. And I'll pick the wide receiver so I don't straddle the fence on that question. But we've seen him do it a couple times now. Stephon Diggs and Kelvin Benjamin. Josh Allen's first career touchdown pass was to Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah.
Might have been his only one to him, but I would not be shocked if that's the direction they go. Will the Saints be willing to part with a young, talented receiver like a Chris Olave for the right piece or right assets? Probably, but I don't know. But I do think that something happens at that position because like I said, I think they are confident in Harrison coming back and what he can do on the field, and they're basically going to push all the chips in on him. And not
Yeah.
only just him, but you got the suspended guys coming back now. I cannot wait to see Michael Hoyt on the field. I think he's going to be a nice little chess piece for this team. And, it's a 2-week span here where Cole Bishop can kind of relax, pick Jordan Poyer's brain, and I think he'll learn some stuff. I go back to, I see this a lot with rookies and young players. I go back even to Josh Allen. I think he started 4 games his rookie year, then he got hurt.
Right.
He missed a couple, 2 or 3 games, and I remember thinking then this actually might be good for him because
Yeah.
now he's got some play time, he's got a little bit of experience, he's got some film to study, and I think he's gonna come out and play a little, and he did. He came out and played a little bit. You can see that a lot with young players. When there is that little bit of a break for where they can kind of relax and not worry about a game plan, not worry about an upcoming opponent, and can just focus on, okay, what can I do better over the review of this film? What can I do better going forward? So I think we'll see some improvements there from Cole Bishop. I feel like he's gotten better already, to be honest, but he's got to slow down.
Yeah.
Deion Walker, he's been he's been a lot of fun to watch. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about the future with him. So the injuries, the suspended guys coming back, even that is going to help the secondary and that number 2 corner position.
Yeah, I agree. But I think when you're talking about the receivers, I feel like if any of those guys is available, it's Rashid Shaheed. I feel like Olave might be a cornerstone piece that they want to try to
Yeah.
keep, because I feel like I don't know if their quarterback is it. I don't know if they feel like, that's New Orleans has just been in such bad shape as far as money and roster turnover and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, you have to look at the bottom feeders who are going to be sellers at the trade
Right.
deadline. So we'll see what happens. But that's all I have for today's show. We went a little bit longer because we went off on a tangent on Joe Brady and stuff like that. And I could have talked for another hour. I've released videos this week about not using James Cook and Everybody Eats and all this stuff. And I'm kind of done talking about that. I'm exhausted talking about it. I'm looking forward to watching what the Carolina Panthers offer and kind of see where this, this game comes before we got to play the Chiefs, because then things get real, right? So for Papa Ron, I am Dave Myers. This has been First and Five. If you haven't smashed the like wherever you're watching, please do that. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button so you get notified when we go live. Papa Ron, go Bills.
Go Bills.